James Martinez. Ryan Moses.
Here.
Candace, I see you as well.
Here.
LaDon Sperling.
Here.
Hi, LaDon. Monique Terpstra.
Here.
All right, excellent. We have a quorum. Thank you all for your attendance today. Let's, hi, James Martinez, I see you. Great. If I can ask for a motion of approval or any comments that anyone might have on the approval of the December 2024 meeting minutes.
I would move to approve.
I second that.
Thanks for that motion. And the second, all those in favor signified by aye or hand raise.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Great, thank you all. Allison, if you could kick us off, please, with your comments and budget updates that you might have.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthea. So I think I first want to thank you all just to acknowledge all of your hard work and dedication that each of you bring to this board. Your commitment to housing solutions across Colorado continues to make a real difference. With that said, I also wanted to make sure that folks know that we are closely watching because we are aware of yesterday's news about the federal administration's intent to temporarily pause all activities related to obligations or disbursements of federal financial assistance. And so rest assured, we're working to understand the potential implications of this pause. And we'll share more information as soon as we have it. Staff at the Department of Local Affairs and State of Colorado leadership more broadly are closely tracking how the direction of this memo from OMB will affect Colorado, our programs, and how individual Coloradans may be affected. We will keep you informed on any updates we receive. If you're experiencing any challenges, we encourage you to document the specifics about what you're experiencing and how it directly impacts your ability to serve Coloradans. We have a point person that's working on this, so we'll ask you to reach out to DOLA's Chief Strategy Officer, Layla Alhamuda, and I'll put her contact information in the chat here in a second so that we can keep track of what this impact is. But I want to particularly express my appreciation for your continued partnership and the leadership of the State Housing Board. And we'll keep you all up to date. Okay, so there are some things that we had planned to update you all on. Thank you, Kristen, for adding that. Layla's email is in the chat now. So the regular things that we wanted to update you all on are our SMART Act. So a couple of weeks ago, first, are there any particular questions that folks have before I move on to regular updates?
Allison, I'd like to ask, the first bullet here says pause on federal funds. Does that mean that all your loans are currently on pause?
Draws from the federal government are on pause. And so it's been a bit chaotic, I will say. So this federal notice came out last night for the pause of federal funds. And the communication that we've received more recently is that it does not impact direct assistance, but we are in the process of determining exactly what that means. So we are in contact with HUD, but HUD cannot provide a lot of details at this point. But it is something that we're closely watching, and we will provide additional information as we learn more. Sam?
Thanks. So in regard to projects that are in the pipeline that have received LIHTC commitments and even potentially commitments from us. Do we have any projects that are in jeopardy of not getting funded in a timely fashion? And do we need to start kind of working on that now?
Sam, we are in the process of assessing that.
Thank you.
It's a matter of what has been forward funded to HUD's recipients, which that would include us. It would include local governments. It includes everyone. We're assessing what systems we can still reach at this point.
What about the Section 8 voucher program? Is that going to be affected?
So the notifications that we received today, not last night, but today, say that direct rental assistance is not impacted, but we don't have details on that either.
Okay, thanks.
If I can add, since we finance HUD loans, we also received the same guidance that FHA loan programs and rental and assistance is not impacted, but that GRRP, the green retrofit funds, may be affected.
Thank you, Anthea. So we are actively monitoring this, and we will be sending out information as we learn more information. Yes, so thank you.
So I know this is all in process, but when we as the board look at what was sent over, I think a day or so ago with all of the remaining balance for each of the different buckets that you all allocate, some of those are direct state funds, right? Not federal funds. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are any of those federal funds?
The state funds would be state funds only, not federal funds. So if they're listed, so home, CDBG, HTF, are the federal funds that would be listed that the State Housing Board would be reviewing.
Okay, but the ones that come straight from the state are not impacted by this at all, correct?
No, they are not impacted. State funds are not impacted by this.
And so similar to, staffing, et cetera, there are going to be portions of your budget that are tied to federal funds, and there are portions that come straight from state funds. Would that
That
be
is correct. That
Okay,
is correct.
so you're trying to work through all of that and see where the impact is, what's commingled, what's not.
Yes, absolutely. So let me add a little bit more clarification on the pause for federal funds. So the pause for federal funds is really focused on the president's executive orders that he's issued in the last week. And so the pause is intended for each of the departments to review those executive orders and to see if there are programs that have information that might be in conflict with one of those executive orders. And so that's the intent of the pause, is to allow time for the departments to assess those programs.
That's helpful. Any other questions from the board? Sam?
So does that mean that, Allison, that projects should not be naming themselves like Denali Apartments and things like that, because that could jeopardize their funding? Doesn't
Sam, I feel like your question, to what level do we want to do this review? And I don't know that you were looking for an actual answer with your questions.
And this is Maria. I can just chime in. I'll just add to what, Director George was saying. We just got this news last night, and it's been a little chaotic, and there's lack of clear guidance. So we are actively looking at all of our programs and what that looks like. But as soon as we have more information, we will be communicating it and sharing it. But it's a moving process this morning, because again, I think we'll know more in the coming days as to what that actually looks like, because there's not very much clear guidance.
Mhm. Thank you, Maria. Ryan?
Yes, as I understand it, that memo went out and it took effect last night at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's got a threshold or the timeline for the internal reviews across the whole of government to be completed no later than the 10th of February, if I'm not mistaken. And so, is this this internal review that's being prompted top down? Is this DEI related?
So I'll chime in. So it actually goes into effect today, January 28th at 5:00 Eastern time. So I think it really goes with what I previously mentioned. It's not very clear. And so we're hoping to get a little bit more guidance. It seems that they want to make sure that programs are aligned with the president's priorities, but it's unclear specific what programs. I think there have been programs that you go to the website and the website's no longer working, right? So without us getting any clear guidance. And I think that's the challenge that we have right now. It's really going through each one of our federal programs to see, does the website still work? Has anything changed? And then trying to get an understanding of what drawdowns need to happen, et cetera. So I apologize. We wish we had more specifics. It's just, it's been a little bit chaotic, to say the least. So we're diligently all hands on deck right now with the different divisions that are impacted by this and leadership to look at what does it mean to each one of our programs.
Thank you.
Sounds like we need to sit tight and wait for further guidance, and just know you all are in good company. All of us in this industry are scrambling to understand this executive order at the same time.
Yeah. And I'll just add, we will be sending communication to the DOH listserv and our local government listserv with kind of, folks, we encourage people that if your local governments or organizations are impacted, to document the information and also let us know.
Okay, that was my question, was how were you going to communicate with us once you figure out what's going on? So thank you for clarifying that.
So more to come is what I can say. Okay, if there are no other questions about the pause on federal funds, I will move to our more regular updates. So the SMART Act, a couple weeks ago, we met with the Joint House Transportation, Housing and Local Government Committee and the Senate Local Government and Housing Committee for our annual SMART Act hearing. The state measurement. So what this is, you might be like, what is the SMART Act? Well, it's called the Smart State Measurement for Accountable, Responsive, and Transparent Government. It's a Colorado law, and it requires that state government entities share annual performance goals and implement of their performance management system. I'm happy to report it was a productive session, highlighting our progress and our priorities. We have several reports that we have to report on, including the mobile home park dispute resolution and enforcement report, the annual affordable housing report, which includes the affordable housing grants, homelessness grants, affordable housing revolving loan funds, and the mobile home park revolving loan funds. So this is a really important report for the State Housing Board because it reports on everything that you all review and advise us on. Also, the Ridgeview Supportive Residential Community and the Financial Literacy Exchange Program. Those are all reports to the committees that I mentioned above. That said, we also do one to the Joint Health Committee where we report on our recovery-oriented housing programs. Those reports are all publicly available, and if you'd like a copy, I'm happy to email those to you as well. Just to highlight the work that we're doing with the annual report, we awarded over $308 million. So thank you all very much, talking about your impact. That funding supported over 5,600 households from new rental units and home ownership programs. So thank you. That's a nice note of what the State Housing Board's impact has been. So then moving on to our budget updates. The division is focused on being efficient with resources and maximizing impact. Between federal funding and ongoing legislative session. Sorry, my notes moved in front of my face, which means that I'm looking for them. Actually, here we go. Sorry. Okay, now we're going. So between federal funding and the ongoing legislative session, we recognize there's uncertainty in the second half of 2025. For the current fiscal year, we're focused on strategically allocating resources in upcoming competitive funding rounds. We shared an update snapshot of current available resources via email yesterday. There have been a couple of changes since that version you saw December 16th that I wanted to highlight. The HDG, Housing Development Grant deficit, is down $2 million. Last fiscal year, it's important to note that House Bill 24-1434 reduced vendor fee allocated to the Housing Development Grant line by $35 million and replaced them with an annual allocation of tax credits of the same amount. And so CHAFA is using those as gap fillers for tax credit projects. So it's important to note that, which is a part of the reason for that deficit. The reduction impacted the total vendor fee available to DOH. Also, the timing of the vendor fee receipts. Instead of receiving vendor fee throughout the year, DOH is receiving vendor fee installments after the $35 million was collected. So that means that we're just starting to earn vendor fee in this fiscal year. Because of the timing change, we're managing $16 million resulting from prior year commitments. And DOH was able to unlock $10 million of interest to increase another source, shift commitments, and reduce that HDG gap. We expect the vendor fee payments starting this month. Like I mentioned, we had that delay in the first 6 months because of that change last year in legislation. We expect the vendor fee payments starting this month, which will eliminate the deficit and allow us to fund March and May applications. Additionally, award amounts for CDBG and home have changed slightly as we have reconciled the previous year awards. Any particular questions on that? And so you would have me and you would have Teresa Casano to help answer any questions you might have. Okay, well, I will move to 2025 legislative priorities. We're supporting several important legislative efforts this session. We have a Prop 123 technical fix for homelessness activities in particular. That is House Bill 25-1019. Representative Sirota and Senator Henriksen are sponsoring that. We have the Smart Stair Building Safety Code standards, and thanks to Representatives both Basenecker and Woodrow for leading this effort. We have regional building codes for factory-built structures. That's Senate Bill 25002, and it's a great step forward, sponsored by Senator Bridges and Exum, and then Representatives Basenecker and Stewart. And then lastly, housing on faith and educational land. Again, Representative Basenecker, Mabry, and then Senator Gonzalez for pushing this innovation solution forward. If you have any questions about these pieces of legislation, feel free to reach out. We're happy to provide more information on these exciting new bills. Now, that last bullet point, what a day, Sam, what a day. This is Sam's last meeting with us. His term expires January 31st.
All good things must come to an end.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So Sam has been an incredible asset to the State Housing Board, and we are incredibly grateful for his service. Sam retired as the executive director of the Loveland Housing Authority in 2018 after a 42-year career. He's been a key figure in numerous boards, commissions, and community organizations, including founding member of the Loveland Fort Collins Project Self-Sufficiency, past chair of the board of directors for CHAFA, appointee to the state's private activity bonds allocation committee. But even in retirement, not only was Sam involved in the State Housing Board, he stays involved serving the McKee Hospital Citizen Advisory Board and the Larimer County Partnership for Age-Friendly Communities. Sam's dedication and impact on affordable housing in Colorado is truly remarkable. Thank you, Sam, and everything you've done to improve housing opportunities across our state, because it's not just Larimer County. You've had an impact on all of us, and I greatly appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. I want to thank you specifically, Allison, for 2019. Allison, asked me after I retired from the Loveland Housing Authority if I would be interested in serving on the State Housing Board to fill a vacancy at that time. And I agreed readily for two reasons, really. One is you guys have helped keep me connected to an industry that, I'm very passionate about still, and kept me connected to people that, I admire so much and think that they're so smart. And so it was great for that. But it also gave me an opportunity to kind of give back to DOH, because this is an organization that really has supported me and, my previous organization, the Loveland Housing Authority, in practically every project that I, tried to develop over the 42-year period of my career. And so I owe a lot to DOH, and, Allison and I have gone back for a number of years. I knew her before she went to DOH, when she started at Mercy and those sort of things. And so it's just great to work with such professionals as exist down at the staff there and the members of the board. And so thank you all for putting up with my curmudgeonness at times and my kind of like ridiculous questions at times. So thank you.
I would definitely say you have incredible questions, not ridiculous questions.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, everybody.
So, Sam, you're not done. You still have a meeting. And so I will hand it off to Anthea for Anthea to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Sam, for your service. It's a sad day. That is some news that you shared, Allison. Let's move to the project application stage. The first project up is Albion Apartments, and presenting today will be Matt Long.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let's finish strong, Sam. So Albion is a 170 unit new construction rental project in University Hills, a South Denver neighborhood. It's just a few-minute walk from light rail and bus stations, and just a few minutes north of multi-million-dollar homes in Cherry Hills Village. Denver zoning calls for a 5-story building, but because it's affordable housing use, they allow going 2 stories higher, which Albion is doing, up to a max of 7 stories. The project will house 30 to 70% AMI residents across 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. Important to note, 27 of the units will house 30% AMI residents. It is a pricier project at $92 million, or around $540,000 per unit. But with that said, the average unit is close to 1,100 square feet. And again, they are all 2, 3, or 4 bedroom units. Del West is the developer, experienced developer with hundreds of units of affordable housing created in the last few years. The $92 million project is funded by 4% and state tax credits, along with a multitude of other funding sources. Natalie Walk is the underwriter on the project who took the lead on the ProCon. And together we are recommending the full ask of $6.76 million in HDG cash flow loan. This equates to just under $40,000 a unit. So before I hand it off to Ken Hoagland, there's a couple minor corrections. Just in the ProCon, there's one section where it says HDG assisted units is 27. The actual number is 25. And there's one section where it notes the ask is 6.67 million rather than 6.76 million. So the correct number is 6.76 million. So with that, I will hand it off to Ken Hoagland, who is representing Del West and the rest of the Albion team.
Thank you, Matt. First of all, I want to say I'm really pleased that I get to make this presentation to the board while Sam is still a member of the board. And I'm expecting a couple of your crazy questions, Sam, when I get done. We on the Del West team are especially proud of this project, and I'm really pleased to be representing them today. It's in an area that has few other affordable properties. And in my experience, when you undertake a project in some place where there isn't much other affordable housing, you usually run up against some NIMBYism. And I think it's somewhat unusual that in this case, after meetings with the former council person who has provided strong support, Kendra Black, and the current council person, they have been both very supportive, as well as meetings with the local neighborhood association have also been very supportive. So we've been very pleased about that. This project will serve families with many 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. It is a short walk, not only from the Colorado Light Rail Station, I think it's about 2 blocks, but within about a 5 or 6 block radius, there are also many other types of stores, including a Target, a King Soopers, a Walgreens, a Sprouts, Michael's, and a whole bunch of other stores that are very easy to get to. This project continues Del West's focus on education that they began during the pandemic. Because first of all, it's within the boundaries of some of Denver's better schools nearby. And it also has some common space that for learning pods, which is one of the things that Del West started during the pandemic, or a preschool. So they really have a focus on serving families and making sure that their kids get educated. The funding request, the funding that is being requested here from the state is matched exactly by funds from the city of Denver, which has already been closed. That loan with the Denver host has already been closed, and it was used to acquire the property, which was made up of a number of parcels. The plans are already approved by Denver Planning and Permits, so that having that available won't affect closing. The team is very close to finalizing the construction contract with the general contractor. And so that can move forward to closing fairly soon. And our current schedule looks like we'll be able to close during April. So that the construction period, once we close, is over 2 years. So we are, as the Del West team, extremely excited about undertaking this project. And with that, I'll let the board members ask any questions that they have.
Thank you for that, Matt and Ken. Appreciate the overview on Albion. And I should have said this initially, but I am recusing myself from this one. So I will open up to the board for any questions. Sam?
How did you know I had a question? Well, first of all, I'd like to say I like the project a lot. I think it's great that you have so many 30% units. It's nice to see projects that have 3 and 4 bedroom units. You don't often see that. And so that's really nice. I'm just kind of curious, why no one bedrooms or studios?
We did some demographic looking in this neighborhood, and for the most part, there are farther north some affordable projects over by Glendale that have mostly ones and twos, and we just felt this really focused more on what was the demand in this community.
Okay. And this is probably a question for your compatriot up above you there, Mr. Morgan. The asset management fee seems high. Is that, did I go to sleep too long over the last year or so? Has fees kind of crept up, or is it just based on the size of this project?
So, sorry, pulling that from you're talking about the Wells Fargo?
It looks like it's the asset management fee is about 19,000, a little over 19.
So that includes, I think that includes both the Wells. So yeah, just looking at the numbers here. Yeah, that includes both the Wells Fargo asset management fee, and then that also includes a DHA asset management fee as well. So it's
right.
both. The Wells Fargo fee is $7,500
Okay.
annually, and then the DHA fee is based on the number of units.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's all I had. Like I said, I like the project a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Sam. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Office of Homeless Youth Services. Presenting today is Jerry Erickson.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here with you today. Thanks for taking time. My name is Jerry Erickson. I am the Balance of State Continuum of Care Program Manager, and I also oversee the Office of Homeless Youth Services, or OHYS. Our Office of Homeless Youth Services is a legislatively required office and is a part of our Office of Homeless Initiatives. The focus of this office is to support the unique needs and challenges when working with young people and families experiencing homelessness. The State Housing Board has approved previous rounds of Next Step 2Gen and Youth Housing Program funding, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. You will note that in your packet that has 2 separate memos and votes for these programs, and we are making 2 funding requests today. I will speak about both programs along with the funding requests, and of course, I'm happy to answer any questions. Historically, these programs have been funded through the Marijuana Tax Cash Fund Homeless Solution Program, or HSP. As revenue for the fund has steadily decreased in recent years, funding availability has diminished and is no longer available for these programs. We are proposing to continue funding the existing grantees, leveraging Proposition 123 funds to make new grant awards for 1 year. So I'm going to start with our Next Step 2 Generation, or Next Step 2Gen program, which seeks to ensure that youth who are experiencing homelessness or housing instability do not continue to struggle with education by providing stability to the student as well as the family. Next Step 2Gen aims to ensure that students experiencing homelessness have the foundation of housing and support in order to achieve academic stability and success. The program provides funding for rapid rehousing and homeless prevention services to families with school-aged children and to unaccompanied students who are 18 years or older who are experiencing homelessness. Since April 2023, Next Step 2Gen has served 370 households, and there are currently 64 households that are receiving rental assistance that are set to exit the program after the end of current agreements, which would be putting these families in jeopardy of eviction should this funding not be approved. We recommend funding 10 grantees who have been providing these services for the last 2 years with 1 year of funding for a total request of $2,056,978.83, which is also on this slide here. I do want to note that homeless prevention activity funding is contingent on the passage of House Bill 25-1019. The division has received guidance to seek explicit clarity from the legislature regarding the allowability of sub-awarding prevention activities. This bill provides that clarity, and our award letters will reference this contingency, and at this moment, we do not project any issues with this. Our youth housing program is focused on serving youth and young adults under the age of 25 who are experiencing homelessness. This program provides funding for 3 housing models: rapid rehousing, tenancy support services, and host homes. Rapid rehousing provides financial assistance and services to quickly resolve a young person's homelessness. Tenancy support services provide supportive services to young people in permanent supportive housing. And we have one grantee who operates a host home program that provides stipends to families who are willing to let a young person who is experiencing homelessness stay in their home. Since April 2023, the Youth Housing Program has served 129 households. And again, there are currently 29 households receiving rental assistance that are set to exit the program after the end of the current agreements, putting these youth in jeopardy of eviction should this funding not be approved. We recommend funding 6 grantees who have been providing these services for 1 year for a total request of $724,914. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Any questions from the board? Sam?
Thank you, Anthea. Thanks, Jerry, for the presentation. Just kind of curious, you know, I saw in the write-up that the staff looks at all of them, all the different programs, and looks at the performance of each program and makes the awards accordingly. And so I looked at, you know, just kind of looking at some of the metrics in terms of dollars per individual served. What's the variation? You know, why do we see such big variations between like one program versus the next in rapid rehousing? Are they providing you know, different services? Are their outcomes that much better that they can be awarded like 2x for, you know, in terms of funding per client?
Sure. So in rapid rehousing, all of our grantees are providing the same basic services. So there is an understanding that they are all providing supportive services along with rental assistance, deposit assistance, that sort of thing, to help move somebody from a homeless situation into permanent housing. However, between our various grantees, that can look very different in terms of the level of support that is provided to a person. So some of our grantees who are serving more people may be providing less intensive services or working with young people who need less intensive services than some of our grantees who are serving fewer. They might have, they do have and likely have young people who have more acute needs, need longer term support, need more intensive support. So it really runs a wide range of what that implementation of rapid rehousing can actually look like, which is where the variance comes in. Nellie, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Hi, all. This is Nellie Steig. I'm the Associate Office Director for the Office of Homeless Initiatives. I think Jerry did a great job talking about how these programs are really targeted for the unique needs of the individual. And Sam's spot on, wonderful question. We are looking at the housing stability metrics for all of these. Jerry and her team has assessed that, and we are pleased with the performance of all of these grantees at present. And I think the strength of the model, honestly, is exactly what Jerry outlined, of the ability to target the level of assistance needed based off of the acuity of the individual. So great job, Jerry.
Yeah, I know these things are hard to kind of compare apples to apples from one program to the next, depending on how difficult of a clientele one group is serving versus the next and all. I just think that it's really important, you know, especially now. I have an inkling that federal funding isn't going to be as plentiful the next few years as it has been in the previous few. And I think the scrutiny of programs is going to be more intense as well. And so I think it's all in all of our best interest to document really the best practices, you know, what's been really successful, pass those on to other organizations, and really be attentive of outcomes and you know, and performance. Thank you.
Kristen?
Thank you, Anthea. Thank you, Sam, for that question. I'll just add, in addition to what Jerry and Nellie said, so Kristen Toombs, Deputy Director with the Division of Housing, that in addition to being able to be individualized for the participants' needs, we're also able to be flexible to the housing market, right? So some communities have higher rents, right? Or a household might be a different size, or based on that. So that's where you might see some differences as well in the cost per participant is based on differences that we see across the state. And what we hear loud and clear from partners is what rents amount might be in one county or one community might look different in another. And so have benefited from having that flexibility from us. But that is one thing that we look at, is making sure that it's rent reasonableness for that market. And that's something that we review with those grantees.
Any other questions from the board? I've got a quick question on the proposed grantees. Are any of them at risk of losing their funding and perhaps maybe not being able to take advantage of the funds that you're allocating towards them now because perhaps they target LGBTQ or any of the individuals that might be at risk of funding lost? Just want to make sure that all these dollars that we're approving are actually going to be able to go to these grantees.
Kristen, please jump on in.
Yeah, Anthea, really appreciate that question. I think similar to what Allison said at the beginning of this meeting is it's pretty dynamic right now, and Maria did as well. It's pretty dynamic right now. And so we're assessing, just a reminder, these are state funds that we're offering, but I think what you're asking is, do we know if they're going to lose federal funds and therefore be in further jeopardy? We also are in a tight budget year at the state. So there's also challenges that we do not necessarily have funding available to increase their grants at this time. So we do have some capacity building programs that the Office of Homeless Initiatives has been rolling out that was going to be helping in communities around where they have some financial stability. And so this very dynamic time will be added into part of what those consultants help our providers look at, is how to be sustainable where possible, or how do they partner together in this ever-changing landscape.
Okay. Thank you. Hearing no more questions, let's go on to the last item on our agenda, which is the annual RFA for the creation of supportive housing, and presenting is Zach Schaffner.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the State Housing Board. Thank you so much for your time. So today I'm going to be talking to you about two projects that went through the annual RFA for the creation of supportive housing, also known as the PSH RFA. Typically, these projects don't go before the State Housing Board because we make a conditional determination of vouchers, project-based vouchers, or tenancy support service dollars. And then those projects, those awards are conditional upon the project receiving grants and loans, funding, other resources from the Division of Housing. So that's when you typically see these projects. These two projects are unique in that they have never been to the State Housing Board because they don't require gap funding resources, or they've previously been to the State Housing Board. So the first project, 4995 Washington, went before the State Housing Board for private activity bonds back in December of 2023. And now we are making an allocation of $72,000 in tenancy support services for this development. So Jerry described tenancy support services briefly, which is super helpful. Those funds from Division of Housing will go to Family Tree, who will be our lead service provider at this property. They will be serving individuals experiencing homelessness using those tenancy support service dollars. And so that project is, right, the rental subsidy is not coming from the Division of Housing. Those are 20 vouchers from HOST. HOST has created their own rental subsidy program based pretty heavily on the state housing voucher program. The other project I'll be talking about is Wish Community. And this is a really interesting project in that it is taking a project that was formerly owned by homeless service provider Urban Peak and converting that into providing 16 units of permanent supportive housing for refugees who are forcibly displaced from their home country and at risk of experiencing homelessness or who are currently experiencing homelessness. So that partnership is in with International Rescue Committee Denver. We're providing 16 project-based state housing vouchers, as well as $57,000 in annual tenancy support services. So 2 projects that typically these don't go to the State Housing Board. We wanted to make sure the State Housing Board had the opportunity to review them. I'm happy to answer any questions that members of the State Housing Board may have.
Any questions from the board? LaDawn.
Not really a question. I just want to say that I appreciate the update, Zach, on these projects. I feel like it's good for us to know what's going on.
Absolutely. Happy to do so.
Thanks, LaDawn. All right, hearing none. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the voting of these projects that have been presented. And let's go ahead and start with Albion Apartments, which I'm recusing myself from. And I'd like to ask any of the board members if there are any projects that they need to recuse themselves from as well. Okay, hearing none. If I can get a motion for approval for Albion Apartments.
So moved. This is LaDawn.
Second, Sam.
Thanks, LaDawn and Sam. All those in favor signified by aye or a hand raise.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Candace, did you have a question or was that your hand raised in approval?
That was my multiple yays, speaking, hand raised, camera, everything.
Love it. Thanks. Thanks for that. Okay. Congratulations to Del West for Albion Apartments. Next, let's, Zach, do you need a motion for approval for the RFA?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That's all right.
Let's do those in conjunction then. The Office of Homeless Youth Services funding recommendations, as well as the annual RFA for the creation of supportive housing. If I could have a motion for approval for both of those.
So moved.
Thanks, Sam.
Second.
Thanks, LaDawn. All those in favor signified by aye or a hand raise or both. And
Aye.
thank you all. Anyone opposed? Good. Well, pleased to say that all of those were approved. Thank you all for attending the meeting. We will see you again next month on February 11th and hope that we have some good news to talk about then.
Thank you, Sam.
Take care, Sam.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks,
Thank
Sam.
you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Sam.
everybody. Be good.
Oh, God.